Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Laura Rogers, and this is SharePoint Power Hour. This is our weekly show where we talk about topics in SharePoint and Office 365 that are more geared towards business users and power users. And we're not programmers, and we're not doing a hardcore server admin. We've just got, of course, there are hundreds of other things to talk about with SharePoint other than those. So we just have, I don't know, over 100 episodes now of Power Hour every Wednesday live at 11 Central. So again, I'm Laura Rogers. I'm a Microsoft MVP. Today's topic is going to be managing web parts. And then I have Corey over here. I'll let you talk, Corey, and introduce yourself. And then we'll kind of talk about chat and, getting around in here and how we communicate, etc.
Yeah, Corey. I've been doing SharePoint about 10 plus years now. I focus on a lot of the out-of-the-box stuff too, and dabble a little bit in administration because it's fun. Yeah, that's me.
All right. I'm logging into my Office 365 site. And okay, so today's topic is going to be managing web parts. And web parts, of course, are they've been around in SharePoint forever. And there are other things that you can do with them other than just add them to pages and do the settings. We did a whole other SharePoint Power Hour about just the settings in web parts and some connections and things and just all the different settings. So now we're going to talk about the concept of what you can do as far as where are the web parts actually stored and how can you control certain things about them, like who can use them, and being able to take your own web parts that you like and use them across in multiple places. So let's see, before I go ahead and get started with the demo, it's always just an on-the-fly demo, and today's is even more on the fly than usual because I did zero prep, but I have it all in my head. So we have this Slack channel, as you can see on my screen, and it's basically I put a link to it over in this description in YouTube so that you can get here. So if there's a link to a form to fill out for you guys if you haven't joined yet. Slack is something that I have to invite people to. It's not something that just anybody can jump in and create your own account. So you fill out the little form and it sends me a note saying that someone is requesting to join. So for example, while I'm doing Power Hour, I can't do those because I have to manually accept them all. But once you're in, you go to iwmentor.slack.com, or hopefully you've all installed the app by now. There's an app for your computer, for your phone, for your any devices you have. It's called Slack. And we have, basically, it starts off with just this general channel in here. But I created a little Power Hour channel, as you can see. And this is where we chat during Power Hour and ask questions and give feedback and give ideas. And that's the whole fun of having Power Hour live, is that, you can ask questions as we go and, kind of help each other if you want. And it's not, it's not all about me. It's all about you guys sort of having discussions sort of as a community. I also created a new channel in here called Newsfeed. You actually have to go add that and go find it. I didn't, invite everybody automatically like I did for the Power Hour one. So you have to go in here and I don't know, Corey, I can't see the button to go find it because I already have it. So I think it's.
Yeah, so if you click on channels, it'll show you all three channels.
There we go. And then you go.
And then you can click on Newsfeed and join it.
Cool. And that's just where I'm going to have blog posts will automatically go there and tweets and stuff like that just for fun. And all right. So hopefully you guys are all in here. We have 85 members now. This is awesome. But I'll go ahead and minimize this. I'm going to move this to my other screen. And so I can kind of see the questions as they're going, and we'll go on into SharePoint. Let's see, my little test site that I use for a lot of stuff in here. And it's pretty blank, but all right. So what I'm going to do is we're going to just talk about just the idea of web parts on pages just very quickly. And then we're going to talk about kind of these additional things that you can do and where the web part gallery is, etc. All right, so I'm going to start off by creating a web part page. Now I like web part pages a lot better than I like wiki pages and publishing pages, because to me web part pages are just easier to work with and they're less buggy than wiki pages. Wiki pages, things will randomly disappear and you get some weirdness where certain things disappear and won't connect. So what I do is I usually go into just the out-of-the-box site pages library, library in just a team site, and you can go to the Files tab and choose New Web Part Page, or you can click here and choose Web Part Page. So Web Part Page is just a content type that anybody can use in any library. So I'm just going to call this Test Web Parts. Of course, I've got probably 800 different pages called that in the site. All right. And then I have to say what library I'm putting it in. Of course, I was already in a library, but then when you're creating a web part page, you have to pick a library again. So be cognizant of that. All right. So you all have probably seen, you know, add a web part, and you've seen, of course, the first thing you have is all the different lists and libraries in your site, and a lot of these are from a previous Power Hour where I went through user questions and I created like little mock-ups of their questions that they had, and I think that was a couple of Power Hours ago, and that was fun. And so these are all the lists and libraries on your site, so you can always insert just a list web part. And then of course you've got all the other different types of web parts that you can put on your site. Content search is a fun, popular one where you can, you know, roll up content from all over the place. I think we've done a couple of Power Hours on that one. And then we've got this media and content category here where we have content editors, a good old web part that's been around forever that lets you just put content or even code and things like that on your page. So I'm going to show you just a quick example of I'll put a couple of web parts on here and then just show you what I can do with some web parts and not another. So I went ahead and added this web part. This is a list view. So this is just one of my lists and libraries. Notice that there are several things I can do with this web part, like I can edit the settings and things. Of course, my face now is in the way of of the web part settings. I might have to like shift to the other side. Woo! Whoa. That's crazy. Okay. Fun times. All right. So I moved my face over to the other side of the page. All right. So you've got your web, because I'm going to be doing stuff with web parts a lot in this demo. So I figured I'd do that. All right. There are a lot of things you can do with this web part and a lot of settings, of course, but you do not have an option for list view web parts to export them. So it's just not listed here. So that's, you know, and I'll show you in a few minutes like a couple of, you know, other hacky things that you can do. I'll go ahead and get SharePoint Designer fired up and start doing that on the other screen while I'm waiting. All right. Okay, so that's just the list view web part. Now, what I can also do is I can add other types of web parts which allow you to do different things. So for example, media and content editor web part, I can add that to my page, and I can just, you know, type stuff here if I want to, and that would just show as text on the page. And I can also, let's go to the settings of that web part. And there isn't much to the settings, so it's just basically I can type stuff in here. I can insert all these different types of things or embed code, and I can even, and I'll show you this content link thing in a minute. That's going to be important. All right. Okay, one thing I can do with the content editor web part is I can export it. See this little export button? So let's like give a good example of, let's see, is my new. Generic company info, such as a mission statement. All right, and then I can, so what I can do is I can take this web part and I can, let me make sure and save it and make sure all my settings are saved in here. So now you can see, of course, it still says content editor there. So I would probably want to either, if I wanted to take this and use it as something, the idea here is, you know, what if I wanted to just take this set of text and I just want to, or whatever code is in here, and I want to just quickly put it on another site, I can do that with the ability to export the web part. And then I'll show you how to use the web gallery as well. So what I can do here is, you know, I might want to completely hide the Chrome just so it doesn't have a title, but I can also just change the title and I can call it something like that. All right, hopefully as I'm doing this, you guys are getting ideas about common things that you might want to do with some of these concepts we're doing, but not yet. We haven't gotten to anything cool yet. So then what I do is when I'm editing the page, I just wanted to make sure and save my changes, is I can export this web part, and that will give it to me as there are a couple of different types of files that you could get when you export your web part. This content editor web part saves it as a DWP. So I can save as, and I can just take my desktop and save the file, just save the DWP file to my desktop. All right. Now I can go take another one. I'll go to do a content search web part. And this is going to be a different type of web part. And I'm going to do a little bit of, you know, kind of some fun stuff with rolling up some content in here. So what I'll do is set it up to show something like, you know, popular documents. That's always a fun one, right? So I'm going to change the query. And I'm just there, of course, there are probably literally a million things you can do with the content query. I mean, not content query, content search web part. But I'm just trying to whip up something just really, something that might be really common that you would do. All right, so I'm going to do restrict by app, current site collection, or I can just say don't restrict results by app at all, which would just be everywhere. It would just show you popular documents from everywhere. And then I could say, you know, maybe what type of file or content type I want. So I can say I want just anything that's the document content type, which doesn't mean necessarily they're going to be Word documents. See, some of these are ASPX files and things like that. And then I can get even more narrow with my refiners, and I can say file type is docx, and that will actually make it so that it's documents, only documents. All right, so I've done just some basics of just some common things that people might want to see in a web part. Like I'll just go ahead and sort it now by popularity ranking model. All right, and make sure that it's, let's see. No, I don't need 2 levels of sorting. Yeah, all right. And then I'll click OK. And then, of course, the display templates are very ugly. And I'm going to pick just kind of the best one that just kind of shows 2 lines of information. And I'll show the most popular 5 items. And let me apply that real quick. It's waiting. Okay, now I can go change the mapping of my properties. So right now it's just got the name of each file here, and I can make it look a little nicer too if I want to by making it say like when it was created or who the author was, etc. So, but I'm going to go ahead and not waste too much time doing that because I have a bunch to show you about just the web part itself. And managing the web parts. So I'm quickly going to just do one more thing and go change the name of it. Popular documents, right? And actually, let me try. I want to see if I can make it so that in this concept of putting the web part potentially on other sites, that we can make it so it's dynamic according to what site you're in. So let me just look in here in some advanced settings real quick. All right, so it's got the content type in here, and then I can basically say site, let's see, path is, you know what, I might not waste time doing this. Let's see, path, no, I better not do that. Let's see. What I was pondering was saying like the path to where all the documents are is in the current site collection or something like that. Maybe we'll just save that for last, because that's going to be like, it's going to have like a parameter, not a parameter, but a part of the URL as part of the path. It would be like path equals blah, 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 you know, and it would have the URL. So, yeah, I'll just do that later. That's a whole other power hour, right? Okay, so now I've got a nice pretty web part that's all ready to go. And I've done all kinds of stuff with it. I've made it, I've configured it, I've put all kinds of settings in it. I've even had some fun with display templates potentially. And I want to just have this so I can quickly go do it somewhere else and not have to start all over, right? So I can go export the web part. We did this recently at a customer, right, Corey? We had to do sort of the same thing in multiple site collections. So we just, you know, saved the web parts off and just used it like that. All right, so notice that the words that I typed in as the title of the web part becomes the name of the file, and then .webpart is the type of web part. So I can do, so I'm just kind of wanted to point that out to you, and I'll save it as just popular documents.webpart, and it's completed. Now, all right, so stop editing. Now I can go to another site. I can just, you know, like go to my HR site or something like that. And I can, here's how you import it. So go to some other site collection, and be able to import that web part. Now, this is just manually importing it. So I'll show you the web gallery in a minute, which might be a better option if you want to do this many times and have it available many times. Usually when I'm importing and exporting web parts, it's just kind of a one-time deal. But I'll show you kind of the purpose of the web part gallery and how you could use that. So I will go insert a web part, and then so you'll notice that I have this little upload a web part section down here. Can you see that, or is my face in the way? No, you don't. You can't see it. All right. Yeah, you gotta let me know about stuff like that. All right. Let me see. Let me move my face over out of the way. God, this whole face thing is getting annoying, huh? Da-da-dum. All right, here it is. Upload a web part.
It might be easier to just take the background off, because then you're using up
then it's just my face. I could just make it smaller, just because it kind of like my face kind of gets lost in the white. All right, good idea though. I'm gonna have to get this software I'm using. It's called XSplit Broadcaster. And last week when I did Power Hour, everything was perfect. There was no graininess. Everything was smooth. It was fine. I didn't change the settings. I didn't do anything different. And now this week, it's all wonky and grainy. And so I'm gonna have to figure out how to go like every week to week as I do this to make it the settings just stay, and figure out like what's changing to make it look different, because the settings aren't changing. It's just the lighting or something. I'm not sure. All right. So I'm going to upload a web part, browse, and I'm going to go to my desktop, and I've got popular documents, and then I upload it. But then, yeah, after you upload it, then it just disappears. Look, oh my God, I hate wiki pages so much. Let me do this again. Let me delete this thing and then save it before I try and add a web part. Good grief. Save. What was I saying about wiki pages? Yeah. Discard. No. Yeah. I was trying to do something quickly and not have to create a web part page, but yeah. Okay, now it's blank. Let me try this again. Insert web part, upload. And go. All right, but then it disappears. That's always just so weird and awkward. I don't know why it doesn't have a better design, but what you can do right after you do that and it disappears, you just go back to the insert web part, and then there it is, and then you click add. So have any of you experienced that and thought it was really odd? All right, so then I can go insert the other web part. I have to go upload that as well. You know what? Since this is a wiki page, I might want to save my changes before I do that. You never know. All right. edit page, and then insert web part. And notice that the popular documents, those words don't show. It's because the Chrome is hidden. So I might have to go unhide the Chrome to make it if I wanted the words popular documents to show. They hide the Chrome by default with the content search web part. All right, upload, and then go do my DWP, which is sort of the old school, like that's been around since 2007, the old school type of web part. The .web part came out in like, I think SharePoint 2010. Okay, web part, IW Mentor, and add. Okay, so now I've got a couple of web parts that I exported off of another site and imported on here. And now look how pretty they look. So the next concept here that I'm going to show you is the web part gallery. So where is the web part gallery? That is going to be at the root level of your site collection. And it's going to be under Web Designer Galleries here where it says Web Parts. See that? All right, and that is just a library. It's just a library with a bunch of files in it. And you'll notice, see the pattern? You got DWP files and .webpart files in here. And if I want to, so we're kind of shifting gears now to talk about the web part gallery and you know, kind of all the web parts that are in here. So what I can do is, this actually has recommendation settings, which means like depending on the type of site you might be on, it might recommend different web parts to you as you're inserting web parts. That's what the recommendation settings is. Let me go ahead and go into the edit mode about one of these. Let's see, let me pick a different one. This is the content search web part. So I'll just go look at the settings. All right, so then this is a file, a .web part, and it's got a title, and it's got, this shows what category it's going to be in. See this content roll-up web part group? That is the category. So there, I've kind of complained in the past about these sort of arbitrary categories that web parts are in. And you could technically go change and make your own categories in here as well and just call them something else and rearrange all your web parts. You would have to do that in all of your web part galleries though, or have that as part of your site provisioning or something like that. But that's where you could change, you know, what the groupings are. I would do that on a test site collection if I were you, if you're going to mess with that stuff. And then this is where it's going to be recommended to you. I think that's sort of an antiquated setting. You'll see it here and there still, but I wouldn't worry about that one. Okay, so I can actually export one of these if I want to and just download a copy to my desktop. And I can, you know, it's just got views just like any other library, so I can go modify the view if I want to. And I can go add the group column to my view so I can see what group things are in. All right, that one's going to be, this is in the community web part group right here. All right, so notice that I'm going to take this and just sort of copy this text right here. Copy. And I'm going to upload one or both. I'm going to go ahead and upload both of my files in here. So once you get the files just like you like them, and all the settings just like you like them, and the title and the Chrome settings and all that stuff, then you take that actual file, like the one I put on my desktop, and you just upload it into the web part gallery, which will make it available for anyone to insert, anyone who's able to edit pages to insert anywhere in the whole site collection. So this is a site collection thing. All right, so that's the name of my web part, title, blah, 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 group. Might just, see, I could specify my own value and I could put the thing that I put in the clipboard right here, but I might just leave it. I think I'm just going to keep this simple and keep it in the default web parts group. All right, and then I'm going to not put a recommendation settings and just see what it does. And now I'm going to also upload my content search web part. Oh, I've only got half an hour left and I've got so many cool things to show you guys. Popular documents. The idea here though is if you're doing a content search web part, it would be really cool if you could make it, like the query it's doing, be dynamic to what site that you're inserting it on if you're going to upload it to the gallery. Does that make sense? Okay, so I'll put it in just the default web parts group and click save. Oh, what? Okay, so it's telling me my description is too long. All right, this is my Contoso popular documents. So that's the description that's going to show when people are inserting the web part on the page. Okay, now back over to my little project site. And this is, of course, this is a different, you could be on a different site. You could be on any site in the site collection. I'm just going to kind of stick to my project site just because I don't want to make a mess kind of in all these other different places that I randomly test things. But I'll just show you on the home page instead of, I'm not going to go edit the same page I was on when I created them. Okay, so here's the home page. I'm going to delete that web part. Let me save it real quick because it's a wiki page. Okay, and insert. I think, Corey, I forgot to tweet the link when, like, I haven't tweeted anything today. I've been busy, and I forgot to tweet the link when Power Hour started. So maybe that's why everybody's so quiet. All right, I'm going to go.
Slacking off, Laura. Slacking off.
Haven't even today.
I'll do it now.
Oh, thanks. All right, so I now, ooh, look at that. See? Remember when I picked the group of default web parts, it just has them in there. So now I can go pick my web parts that I uploaded and put them right there and insert both web parts, etc. But if I want to change one of the web parts, what do I have to go through? I have to edit the web part, save the file off to my hard drive again, and then go back to the gallery, delete the one that's out there, and or just re-upload on top of it. Maybe there's versioning in there, I don't know. And then it will be available, and then it's not going to automatically apply to all the people that used it already, though. It's not going to just dynamically like proliferate all the settings across everywhere. Okay, so there's, okay, so now that I've showed you where the web part gallery is, let me show you a couple of tricks. Let's go back to my top level site settings and the web part gallery again. Now let's try something. Let's do, maybe we want to restrict the web parts so that maybe we don't want people using, you know, maybe our people that are managing websites are still, we don't necessarily trust them to not just go into the web part gallery and just start inserting one of every single thing onto their pages. And we want to maybe keep the list a little narrowed down. So when people go to insert a web part on a page, it's not just so overwhelming, and maybe just take like people that you know what they're doing and like that group of people and let them insert certain web parts. So when I'm controlling the permissions on the web part gallery, that's not controlling the permissions of who can see the web parts once they're on pages. This is just who can, when they're clicking to insert a web part, who can see them to insert them on a page. Joy Knows, at Joy Knows on Twitter, recently wrote a good blog post about the fact that she had created a subsite in SharePoint, and the person that she gave the ownership to that subsite didn't necessarily have any permissions to the parent site. So inherently they didn't have permission at all to the web part gallery. So when they went to add web parts, they had pretty much nothing that they could add except for just the ones that the lists and libraries on that site. So if you're missing all of your web parts, you just might not have access to the whole gallery. All right, so let me just go do some permissions here. So I'll go to share. I don't want to share it. I just want to, there we go. Just go to that. Advanced. So this is the business data, one of the business data web parts. So I can, this is a file and I can change the permission to it. So maybe I only want a certain number of people to have access to be able to add that web part. So like just the owners. So I can edit the permissions on the individual web part file itself. Does anybody think that's cool? Give me a thumbs up in there. Give me like some emojis or something. All right. So you can edit who can add web parts. I'd like to demo that and, log in as a different user and kind of show you, look, the web part's not there anymore. But I'm trying to, I don't want to waste a bunch of time doing that. So hopefully you guys can take my word. Let's see. Oh, good. I'm glad you guys like that. All right. So there's nobody in the owners group. Clearly I'm a site collection admin. So, so I'm not even in the owners group, but if you're not in the owners group, basically you're not going to be able to see that web part to add it to a page. And if you, for some reason, you're trying to add web parts to a page, then you don't see them except for the list, it's because you don't have access to the whole gallery. Another thing you might notice is certain web parts are missing from your gallery, and it might not necessarily be because you don't have permission to the web parts. It might have to do with some services being enabled. So you're going to have different web parts related to different features that are enabled on that site as well. So kind of keep that in mind. For example, here's a good one. SharePoint Server Enterprise Site Features. If this is not activated, there are a bunch of web parts you're not going to have at all. They're not even going to exist in the gallery, like the filter web parts and the InfoPath form web part. A lot of stuff like that. I think even Excel services, etc. So if you're missing all those cool web parts, go ahead and activate the enterprise site features, and then all the web parts will appear in the gallery. All right, so let me go over to, let me get SharePoint Designer pulled up, and what I'm going to do is go back to my site and go to one of my lists, and let me see, here's what I'm going to do just for fun. I'm going to show you an example of having, for example, like this project top level site. You might have multiple different project sites under it, and you might want all of your project sites to have some certain thing to show across all of the project sites, or some certain list, or a web part, anything like that. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm just going to create a couple of project subsites. So I'll call it project 1. And project 1. It helps when you're naming your subsites not to just have a bunch of mashed together words, because this helps for search to have actual real words just with underscores between them. Just tip of the day. Sure, I'll use the top link bar. And that'll take a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some content and have the content live in a single place, and then have it show on multiple sites, and you'd only be changing the content in one place. So of course this is SharePoint, so there are probably several different ways to go about that. But the way I'm about to show you, you can do this in any version of SharePoint: 2007, 2010, Foundation, Office 365, SharePoint 2013, probably SharePoint 2016. So let me go back up and create the other site. So this concept I'm about to show you is pretty broad, so pretty much any of you will be able to do it. I'll go to Site Contents again and create Project 2. And Project. Did y'all know that about the site naming, that's important? Hopefully that's something that you can take with you and go forth and name sites correctly, because when people are doing searches, the URL that you're going to is actually part of the metadata. Did you know that? All right. Okay, so my project 2 is created. Now what I want to do is have some verbiage that I want to show I want to create it in one place, and I want it to just show in multiple sites. Now of course with the content search web part, you can do that. You can just have it show, like some particular list or library, or even down to one particular item if you put the URL to it. And then the content search web part can automatically just show you that content across multiple places in SharePoint. But again, what I'm about to show you, you don't have to have the enterprise version. You don't have to have 2013, Office 365, all that. Anybody can do this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is at this top level, I'm just going to create a quick little file. I'll go ahead and create, let's see, I'm going to put it in a library. And I'm just going to use Notepad for now. And I'm going to say, let's see. This is maybe a disclaimer so people can read that when they're in SharePoint. All right, I'll save as, and I'll save it as disclaimer. All right, I've got a story behind this one. This one's going to be cool. All right, so there's my quick little disclaimer. It's just a text file, and I need to upload it to a library, and I need to get the URL to it. Okay, what library can I just go quickly stick this in? I'll go put it in library and documents and disclaimer. I'll just drag it in there. There we go. Okay, now my disclaimer's in there. I need the URL to it real quick. I'll just go grab it like this. Just go copy that. And okay, so now I can go down to a subsite. So go down to, so the text exists in one place, just at the top level site. I'll go down to one of my subsites. I really should put those in the navigation. All right, project 1, and edit the home page. Get rid of that. Yeah. And thank goodness the home page on a project site is a webpart page. It's not a wiki page. I love that. Okay. And then I'm going to put the, oops, not uploading webpart, sorry. I'm going to put the content, good old content editor webpart on here. And all I'm going to do is go into the content editor webpart settings and put the URL. So this is my content link. So it's just pointing to the content from that one place. Click OK. Look at that. Can I get a woohoo? Does anybody think that's cool? So now what I could do is I could even take this web part and export it. So the web part is just got dynamic information in it. It's just pointing to this file. So, so whatever verbiage is in this one file, that's what's going to show in this web part. So what I can do is, give it a pretty name and things like that, and decide what my Chrome type needs to be, and then I could take this web part, export it, and put it in the web part gallery. But even though I'm uploading the DWP file to the web part gallery, the file is still just pointing to that text file. So then anytime I need to change my verbiage, I can just edit the text file. Pretty nice. I'm glad y'all like that. Cool. Now I'm going to go edit. I'm going to show you a couple.
We had a quick question in Slack.
Oh, okay.
Just for naming sites, dashes versus underscores.
Oh, Vlad Castri, I don't know how you pronounce his last name. He recently wrote a whole blog post about that. He actually did tests, and he tested hyphens versus underscores versus spaces. And his test, actually, the results came up with that underscores or spaces were actually better than hyphens and gave better, more accurate results. So I don't know if one of you has time to go find Vlad, V-L-A-D, go. He's one of the SharePoint MVPs. Go find his blog post and paste it up here. But he's written it within the past year or so. I don't know. But yeah.
I think I found it.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. So what I'm going to try real quick is just putting some HTML in there, and let's just see what happens. I did this on my desktop again, so I have to go upload it to the library again. Let's see. Unfortunately, text files are not something that you can really edit dynamically in SharePoint. You can't really do the whole point to content link with a docx file or something like that. At least last time I tried, you couldn't. So I'll go to documents. Oh, it's already 11:43, and I've got so much more cool stuff to show you. All right, documents, and I'm just going to drag this Make sure that was saved. And then, yeah, replace it. Okay, so this new one has got some HTML in it. So now let's go look at one of the subsites. And I really should put this in the, watch this. Let me see, edit links. No, I'm not gonna do that right now. Okay. So what I can do is I can go to all my different project sites and I can insert, ooh, see, look, you can use HTML. So the file can actually be, it can be a text file like I did with just text. And I even see, you saw how I put some like bold, some HTML just in a TXT file. You can also have a .html file. So this, when you're referencing in the content editor web part, when you're referencing the file, you can point to a .html file. But either the HTML or the text file, you'll still have to open that like on your local computer and re-upload it because you're not gonna be able to like directly edit those from SharePoint. But still, I'm showing it across multiple sites. So let me go ahead just real quick over to project 2 and put that same reference in there. I think I still have that in my clipboard. We'll see. Let me remove that. All right, and edit page. Okay, content. It's in, again, it's in media and content editor. And of course, this one, I told you could put it in the gallery, but I didn't actually do that yet. So I'm just going to manually put the link to it right there. Click OK. So again, now both web parts on both sites are pointing to the same text file. I think you've got the gist of that, right? Okay. So yeah, that looks like that screenshot. Yeah, that's the right blog post. It's so funny. Vlad's really smart. I've hung out with him a couple of times. He's a really nice guy. Okay, so now I've showed you how that works with either HTML or a text file. I'll show you some coolness of what I did. So what I wanted to do the other day was when people clicked I wanted people to be able to click a promoted link and have the verbiage, have the disclaimer verbiage pop up in another window and just in front of everything else. So what I did was I created a list, and I'll just go, and I'll show you how I did this. Anybody think that sounds interesting? All right, create a quick custom list. And I just had this standard list as part of the site template, as part of all the sites, so that they all had this, the ability to do this. And then what's in the list doesn't matter. But first thing I did was change the settings in the advanced settings so that it allows pop-ups. So launch forms in a dialog, okay. And then the next thing that I did was, of course, you imagine that your disclaimer is a lot prettier, or it's a lot of pretty HTML, or you have all kinds of coolness going on with images and things like that, just whatever you want to be in your thing that you're sharing, your content that you're sharing. Okay, so then I go to display form, and I am going to edit that and put, what in the world? That's weird, my toolbars disappeared. Let's try that again. Default display form. Okay, that's odd. Whatever, all right, I'm gonna do maybe because there are no items in it yet. There we go. Okay, now maybe I can do that. No, all right, watch this. Okay, so while I'm setting this up, I'm gonna put this so that it's not in a pop-up. Because sometimes you get some funky behavior when the pop-up setting is turned on. I'm trying to do this really quickly because I've only got 12 minutes left. All right. Now, let's try that again. Go to display. So I'm displaying something, and then I'm gonna edit the page basically. All right, add a web part, add my content editor web part, put my disclaimer in it. Of course, I should have added it to the gallery. It would have saved me like 3 different times I've had to do this. Okay, and then apply. And then I don't even need this other thing. Like, I'm not going to delete it off the page because I have a feeling I would break the page and I wouldn't be able to open it anymore. But I'm going to hide it, and I'm just going to hide it for now, and I'll show you this step. But I'm going to do something a little different in a second. Okay, so now apply, and then the idea is that when they click to display something, it's just going to show the verbiage and not all the other stuff. All right, but I still have this toolbar that I don't want. Even when it's in the pop-up, when I'm displaying something, it shows this toolbar. I don't want that. So, but I did notice that when I customize a list with info path, it has the option to turn off the toolbar. So I'm going to customize it in. I'm not going to actually use info path. I'm just going to customize it in info path just to get rid of the toolbar. This is kind of hacky, right? All right, and let's see. I don't even think I need to do any of this. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just uncheck that. All right, so I took off the info path commands, and I'm not actually going to use the info path form at all. I'm just using it so that I can not have a toolbar on my screen. So I opened up, and of course I did an info path open in another screen. But all I did was basically, let me show you. Let me go just show you where the setting was that I changed. Of course, I'm looking over here and showing this other screen, and you can't see that. Come on, info path, you got to go faster. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is, after I do this in info path, then I still have to, info path uses a different form. So I have to go edit the form. So form options, see, I just unchecked show info path commands in a ribbon or toolbar. So I just took that off. That's all I did. And then I just published it. All right. So now once I've done that, now the form web parts has all this different stuff. So I actually need the one that's this new one right here. That is the info path sort of version. See, it's going to have the info path form web part on it. So this is where I would put my content editor web part. And that's all that's going to show on the page. It's very cool. All right. Take that. I've got 3 more things I need to do. I've got to put that in there. I've got to hide this one. And I'm going to have to make it so that it's a pop-up again. Create the promoted link so that it uses that. Okay, and then back to advanced settings. This is like the fastest power hour ever. You didn't think I could talk about managing web parts for a whole hour, did you? Okay, so then go back to launch forms in a dialog. Yes.
Some people are saying you should talk about it for 2.
No. All right, so now when I watch this, let's see, it should do it. When I open one, ta-da! Okay, so that's just gonna have my verbiage, and that's just the name of whatever. This is the name of the item, so you might want to make the name of your item something that makes more sense, but I just called it test. Okay, so I want that URL to that one item, and I want that to be my pop-up. So I take this shortcut and make that be my, in my promoted links list, I'd have to have just the shortcut to this item. It would be like to the display form, you know, ID = 1. I don't think I have time to do that because I want to show you something else cool. All right, so now what I want to do is have this concept with my projects and my project subsites. I want to have something that shows across multiple subsites. And again, this is kind of old school. This is something that's been around. What if I have project sites, but I've customized it a little bit and I've saved the project site as a template? So all my project sites have not just the generic Microsoft template, but they have like maybe some extra lists that I created and extra stuff like that, and some web parts are configured, etc. So what I can do is, have you all ever had like systems like that where you had to create a lot of just sort of exact same copies of the same site and just use it, using them for different purposes like multiple projects or multiple, what was it, Corey? It was just multiple request forms that we did one like that for.
Yeah, multiple form sites.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an app. And the idea here is that I'm going to create this. I'm just going to call it Contoso project stuff. The idea here is that this is going to be a list that, just imagine in your head that this same list exists in all of these Contoso projects that I created a site as a template, and they've all got this list. So then what I want to do is I want to have this information show in a web part and have it kind of standardized and look a certain way across all the different sites. So let me just put one thing in here. One thing. So what I can do is I can go open this list up in SharePoint Designer, and what I'm going to do first is create a new view that does not use the default style. This is my old school style. I've noticed recently that this is in Office 365, like newer tenants, I think they fixed this issue. And now when you change it to a different style, it doesn't break it anymore, but it doesn't have like this sort of old school code set behind it anymore. But I want to show you what I can do with this view. So imagine that this is a nice, pretty view that I created. I got it all like I like it, all my columns, everything looks just right. I've got maybe even certain buttons and special things on it that I did custom. I don't know, whatever you want to do. And then I go open up this list in SharePoint Designer, and I can call this. So here's my list. And let me go refresh it because I created that other view after I opened up SharePoint Designer. All right. And so what I'm going to do is open up this view. And I touched on this a little bit in a previous Power Hour where you could go in here and do some things with sort of these old school data view web parts, because when you put your cursor in here, it changes the whole, you get this extra toolbar here. But web part is one of the tabs I get here. So watch this. You notice that this is relevant to what I've been teaching today. To file is going to save it off to the hard drive. To site gallery is going to take this web part of this one list and put it directly in the site gallery as a dot web part or whatever. All right, so choose a name and description. So like this is for all project sites. And then properties are going to be like web part properties. Okay, this is important. Watch this. This is relevant to why I created multiple project sites here. Do you want this web part to always show list data from the current website, blah, 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 project one? If you select no, the web part will show data from the list at the path relative to the site in which it is used. Light bulb, right? So if you have Contoso project stuff list in all of your different project sites because you used a template or something, right? Then it's going to show that list on that site, but in the pretty, special configured way that you did in your web part. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, Corey? So now it's in the gallery, but when you insert this web part on a page, it's going to show from the list on the site where you insert it. So it's relative. So you have to have a list called whatever it is, like, Contoso project stuff on that site, or else it will not work correctly. But that's the idea, is that you can have like a standard, set up your web part in a nice certain way and have a certain way that you want to look at it and not have to go do that on all of your different sites. Just have that web part set up once. All right. Got 2 minutes. I don't think if there's anything I missed. Anybody? All right. So just a recap real quick. You have the web part gallery exists in one place in each site collection. Those are all of your DWP and .webpart files. And those, you can upload your own DWP and webpart files. And you can also create, if you want to show content across multiple sites, you can create a content editor webpart that just has a reference link to some central file. And wherever that content editor webpart gets placed, it will just show that text. And it's just hard-coded text, but you still can, you know, you have one place where you can edit it. All right. The only other thing I kind of wish I had time to do was go into the content search webpart and figure out a better way to make it so that it's relative to whatever site you're in. So I might just try that just for fun real quick. You guys feel free to leave. Of course, you feel free to leave anytime. It's a free show. It doesn't matter. All right. So here's my, I'm just going to, in my head, I can picture like what I think the setting would be, but I've never actually done it. So we'll figure it out. Okay. Does anybody happen to try this while I was, no. Okay, so it's going to be, if I go back to quick mode and I say I want the current site collection as my sort of scope here, then you'll notice that down here it says path, and it has the site collection just hard-coded right here. And so anywhere where I take this web part, it's still just going to point to this site collection. It's not going to dynamically point to whatever site collection the web part is in. So what I really think I need to do is make path be like, have some sort of variable that says current site collection, right? So let's see. Current site, maybe. Path. Web URL. So I've got web URL. I've got, so fun sifting through these, don't you think? URL depth, site title, site ID, site SIP address, which is like link, which is unified messaging. I think path is what I need. Had a lot of people request to join sort of while I was going, but I'll let all you guys in kind of after I'm done.
I don't see path in there.
Yeah, I don't either.
Might be that.
I think site is just the name of the site.
Yeah, that web URL.
Yeah, maybe.
Sounds pretty promising.
So a lot of the times,
you can always delete it.
Yeah, a lot of the times when I'm doing these, I'll take whatever that property is and I'll just try to display it in the web part. Of course, not all properties are available to display in the web part, like in those little property mapping drop downs. So then that way you can kind of figure out what the value is in there. All right, so URL begins with, and then it will be this site collection. Yeah, there we go. So maybe I can add that. Add property filter. Web URL begins with this. Like, no. Let me see.
It's a cool variable though.
Yeah. You know what? I'll do path, because that's path is what it was before, right?
Just type it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Promising.
Ooh, look at that.
There you go.
And done. So what the truth of this is going to be to go to another site collection and try that out. So what the hell? I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got path begins with site collection URL, and then but let's see. They're all going to begin with, like, this site collection is just the root one. So every single site collection is going to begin with that one. You know what I mean? So the path would have to, I don't know. It would really have to be site collection equals site collection URL. Oh, yeah. I mean, technically this would work, but I think like it would get confused between other, like the root site collection and the other ones potentially. I don't know. I'm just gonna say that that's a good start for that one. Maybe we'll do some other power hours at some point. But I gotta go.
Okay.
It was good chatting with you all. Oh, I forgot to put my little setting on present to everyone so that it moves Corey off the bottom.
Oh, they had to stare at me the whole time.
They did. I hope you weren't picking your nose or anything.
No.
I'm just kidding. All right. Okay. Well, we'll see you guys next. Oh, no, we won't see you next week because I'm on vacation. So we'll see you the week after that. But everybody have a good afternoon.
Bye, everyone.